So I will take you through the trip with me about how fermented foods is occur. And the first slide is I show you a little bit on where I work. Yeah, that is the part, just one part, one small part of Khon Kaen University. Where I work is over here, and we have the pointer. There's a pointer.
Behind the laptop. No.
Oh, here. Oh, okay. Right. The pointer. There is a pointer here, right? Okay. So this is where I work, and where most of our students here, her name Sirinda Yunchalard and Katya. They all study over here. Yes, we are on the 5th floor. Okay, the Department of Biotechnology, and the 3rd floor here is the Department of Food Technology, which now you have. We had a student from UGM doing his master degree in food safety, Agam Gamawang. Okay. Do you know?
Yeah.
Agam, okay. And on the 4th floor, we also have what we call Center for Fermentation for value-added agricultural products. Okay. And this one is the statue of King Rama IV, which we recognize him as the father of science and technology in Thailand, and that's the Faculty of Science. Okay, just one building of the Faculty of Science. There are a big complex behind that. Yeah, for Faculty of Science. Yeah. Okay, next. Now I will talking about fermented food and the pickle. These are the photos of all those interesting fermented food around the world. First of all, this one you may know now in Thai, sauerkraut, which we have to have it with German sausage because it comes from Germany. Okay, fermented cabbage. Okay, and then that is kimchi, fermented vegetable from Korea. Okay, and that the most important one. Yesterday you had start to know about whole fish fermented fermented whole fish dish. We call here pra som. Okay, so I will take you to see more about how it's going to make. Okay, pra som here, and then that's I'm sorry about that. From a Muslim point of view, yeah, but anyway, that is the typical fermented food that you can find around, even at a cocktail party, in the hotel, everywhere. We call it's a fermented minced pork. Okay, called in our language is naan. It's very famous there too. Next. These are the outline of my talk today, of my lecture. Okay, maybe it's not really covered, but basically more or less the same here, like what is fermented food, what is food fermentation. I will take you down into the more serious contents, okay, on this, and then a little bit on historical background about fermentation science, okay, and type of fermented food, yeah, scientific rationale, and the future perspective of traditional fermented food. Okay, anybody can follow me, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Next. Now, as I told you, what is fermented food? The shortest way they say the fermented food is the food that produced and preserved. That's a very two words, very important, 2P, okay? Right. By what? This, the small living that's living with us, associate everywhere. Microorganism, or we call microbes. I don't know how you guys get familiar with microbiology here, with Professor Endang and the others. Okay, so yes. Now, the second one about fermented food is the major food processing. It is the method, one of the major food processing method that people around the world know, okay? Every country has their fermented food, basically, even though Germany, Spanish with salami and things like that, okay? So they all knows about fermentation. Now, what is it? This is just an introduction, a little bit on, about conversion. Fermentation is a process of conversion process, really. If you want to make it a bit more specific, you can say, put bio in front of the word conversion. So, if you ever familiar about the word bioconversion, okay? Bioconversion, why? Because it's being driven by these microbes, okay? What happening? What they convert all those either or all of carbohydrate, protein, lipid containing in raw material and ingredient in the food recipe. You know about recipe, right? So it's like a special method to do any dish, okay? We call recipes, okay? So what they did, they convert. I say either or here is means some dish might do only one part, might do only the carbohydrate conversion. Some other fermented food might dealing mainly with protein conversion. So that's why I put either or all there, alright? So what happening there? After conversion is transformed more or less into useful metabolites through its corresponding conversion catalyst. That's very important. If they have these catalysts, they will not be able to convert any of that constituent that contained in the ingredient or raw material, okay? So, this catalyst more or less say that sign of fermentation because they deal with those enzyme catalysts, biocatalysts. Sometimes they say science of fermentation is zymology. Zymology, because it involves a lot of enzyme, the biocatalysts that convert, they're helping together to turn those raw material and food ingredient into the finished product that we really expected to have. Alright. Anybody have any question about this? Yeah? Alright. Okay, I'll go further. Next. Now, what is fermentation? This is quite deep into a scientific group, into biochemistry and, of course, microbiology. Okay, so what is really a fermentation? From microbial conversion action, one part of it that they say the fermentation is from microbial conversion action. It's the action of microorganisms there from and to convert organic compound to other organic compound. I emphasize in the low oxygen atmosphere. Low oxygen atmosphere, alright? Or the other one, we can say it, what is fermentation? Microbial is a microbial action to convert sugar. Sugar is a kind of carbohydrate, okay? Convert sugar into various metabolites, okay? Such as, importantly, is organic acids, okay? So, if you like, from these two wordings to sentence, you can say that more or less fermentation is a bioconversion of here the word carbon source with organic compound is always includes carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. Okay, so we basically talking about the first element is carbon, which is very important. So carbon source is for all of us, since we are organic as well. So we have to compose of carbon in our cell and everything. So carbon is very, very important. Okay. Now, what type of sugar that very important? It is about monosaccharides. So that's the smallest unit of the sugar compound. Okay. The smallest one I have in the bracket here, glucose. Everybody know glucose, and sometimes if you go into the sport complex, you need to have a lot more energy. You having what you call maybe dextrose. It's the same, dextrose or glucose. Okay. Into conversion glucose into various organic acid, I put down here another color there is mainly in terms of the food fermentation here. We emphasize on this particular organic acid called lactic acid. The second acid is acetic acid, which is familiar in our household cooking. What is it? Do you know? When we're talking about acetic acid in the household, in our kitchen, everybody? Vinegar, yes, vinegar. Okay, acetic acid is the main acid in vinegar. And then maybe citric acid. Do you know, anybody know where citric acid is? Where should we get citric acid? Yes, from the name of citric acid is come from all citrus fruits, like on orange, lime, lemon, everything, yeah, that is bit from citrus tree will have citric acid. Okay, this is another important one in terms of food industry. In Thailand, we have a big factory on citric acid. Okay, yeah, citric acid mainly from fungal, from Aspergillus niger. Okay, who produce basically a lot of citric acid fermentation there. And of course, this is everybody know glutamic acid. Who doesn't know about glutamic acid? MSG. MSG, what is it? Do you know? Tirada? What is MSG? What is it? Monosodium glutamate. Yeah. That is the finished formula of the glutamic acid factory. They have to have a finished formulation for us to use, easier to dissolve in our food. So they turn into a monosodium salt, monosodium glutamate. After they let the bacteria produce glutamic acid for us, the bacteria is Brevibacterium or Collinibacterium, okay, will produce glutamic acid. Of course, lysine is another important amino acid, especially around animal feed, okay, animal feed, yeah, okay. And of course, the important one, last but not least, CO2 gas. Then you know why CO2 gas has become last but not least. Back to the history of the discovery of fermentation. What happening because of CO2 gas? That's why we had formed the word fervir. Fervir means to boil. In French, it's discovered by French chemist called Gay Lussac, okay? He doing a lot of work on why fermentation? By that time, he's born before the big guy of us. Next one is the father of Microbiology Foundation and the father of biotechnology. Do you know who I'm talking about after Guy Lussac? Louis Pasteur. He also a French chemist too. So together these two had tried to make a foundation on fermentation for us. But the word fermentation comes from fervia, Latin language, okay? Mean to boil here, okay? So he saw a bubble gas from his wine fermentation, and he thought is like water is boiling. Like he get excited about it. He thought that his wine getting, at its heat. Why is heating? The temperature will be higher and higher if you doing your fermentation, because in terms of what you call physical chemistry, all those reactions will be two type of reaction. One is endothermic and the other one is exothermic. So for fermentation, it's always generate heat together with CO2. So his wine bottle becomes look like wine is boiling. Alright, so that's why he shouted for beer. So that is what is the root of the word fermentation. Alright? Anybody understand about this point? So CO2 is last but not least because of CO2 gas generation, then we know about fermentation. Okay? Alright, so next. Now, this is quite headache. I thought that I would like to take this slide out, but well, maybe this will be one of my tasks to you today. So please listen carefully. Okay, right. All right. Now, yes, the definition can be slightly different between two disciplines, biochemistry and microbiology. Sorry, my voice is a bit, because I still have my common cold. Anyway, is it okay? Okay. Listen, it's okay, right? All right. So now we looking to the biochemist point of view. Okay. Fermentation in the view of biochemists is said to the process that generates energy. Okay, that's very important to biochemists. When they said about fermentation, they always only looking for ATP. What is ATP stand for? Who can get me? Adenosine phosphate. Yes, that's very important. That drive you from the morning when you wake up until you get to go to bed. Your body have to be energized and produce ATP. Otherwise, we cannot be very active like this. This is energy. Okay. What is this come from? From this very important one, the breakdown of organic compounds under oxygen atmosphere. Note before I say low oxygen, but with biochemistry, they say once in the respiration, in the oxygen, when you do aerobic and things like that, your body will produce more energy and the organic compound will go and break down into the TCA or Krebs cycle to generate ATP. Okay?
What is TCA? What is the acronym for TCA?
Krebs cycle. When you do any aerobic exercise, you get all the oxygen pump into your body, and the breakdown of your glucose will generate ATP. That's what we call
to run the
biochemist interest about fermentation. Alright, next one is that another system when you feel tired. Okay, when your body turn into respiration, when you had lower oxygen in your system. Now what happening there, interesting that they will transform the important intermediate called pyruvic acid to turn into various what you call electron donor and electron acceptor, and turn into a fatigue acid that sometimes is in your muscle when you feel fatigue because you undergo this anaerobic condition. So you have become lactic acid accumulation into your muscle and you feel tired, sore, sore, things like that. So because they are under anaerobic conditions. So these are the two main interests for biochemist point of view. Alright? But when you come to see this side, the microbiologist point of view, what they're thinking about fermentation. Microbiologists think about that fermentation is one of the major production process through microbial cultivation. Okay, now the microbiologists left it all to our small living creatures. Okay, so they said via microbial cultivation, which will cover both aerobic and anaerobic conditions. So, okay, more or less, microbiologists interest in the cultivation and what the microbe will give you the product at the end of cultivation. Okay, so yeah. Next. Now we talking deep into what do you mean by the word fermentation? What do you mean by those two points of view between biochemists and microbiologists? So they're talking about from what we say here, what we see here, pyruvate, the important intermediate, okay, become what we call C3 molecule. Why? Because fermentation is simply mean the lysis of glucose. Glucose has been lysed, and we call glucolysis or glycolysis. And because from glucose they have carbon for 6 atoms, they have to break down from C6 molecule to C3 molecule. Okay? So what we say here is that the fermentation is the breakdown of glucose under the absence of oxygen. Okay, the absence. Okay, so now here, fermentation, I said, not require oxygen for certain process. So it means fermentation, sometimes in terms of microbiology, it can be aerobic, at the same time can be anaerobic, or can be a low oxygen atmosphere. A bit more, because it's deal with microbial cultivation, the microorganism can be divided into, due to their oxygen requirement for their growth, it can be a strictly anaerobic microorganism. The other one can be strictly aerobic with need aeration, and the other one can be facultative anaerobic, something like that, a lot. So for fermentation point of view of beer in microbiology, we talking about more basically the metabolites that very important come after you had cultivate your organism, your microbes. Okay? Alright. Yeah. Next. the relationship between fermentation and glycolysis. So, of course, yeah, from glucose to pyruvate, okay, pyruvic acid, okay. It's the breakdown between C6 from C6 compound to C3 compound via glycolysis, glycolytic pathway, or what we call that? You know the pathway? Yeah, what is the name of it? Emden-Mayer-Panas pathway. Okay? The people who establish this pathway or find this pathway. Now very
May I ask?
Yeah.
Maybe there is a lot question from me and Miss Erna because we are way to go from the
but it will finish soon.
Can you tell me that fermentation is the changing process,
The breakdown.
the breakdown of the chemical?
Yes.
And can you tell me what is the process is glucose to pyruvate,
Yeah.
and then pyruvate to many products,
Yes.
meat and so
Yeah.
on. Can you explain me? I know glucose, but I don't know pyruvate.
Yeah, you will see from the next slide.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, so yeah, so now I put the pink color on C6 glucose, and now I get you another term. So in terms of microbiologists, we always think about glucose. It is a utilizable sugar in terms of if they use glucose in a fermentative way, you will call glucose as a fermentable sugar. Okay, glucose is a C6 or a hexose sugar, consists of carbon 6 atom. It is the most what you call sugar that every living organism can use. If that organism cannot use glucose, it cannot be in this kingdom. Okay. So any living organism can use glucose, C6 compound, because we will go to the breakdown between C6 to C3. Alright, so, and of course, from those anaerobic conditions, all of these will become a very important, sorry. Okay. Will be about electron donor as NAD and electron acceptor, which will give you a lot of product that you asked about. Yeah, with this couple reaction like this. That's why we put down here from pyruvate to various metabolite or various important products, which includes all those fermentation. The product obtained after fermentation, okay, because of this. Okay, right. Next, now. Oh yeah, I'll go to this slide first. What happening to your question is that glucose, a C6 compound, will transform into glucose 6-phosphate, fructose 1,6-diphosphate. This is just the action of phosphorylation, trying to add phosphate group into the sugar molecule here. This is monophosphate, this is diphosphate, into different position of the carbon atom in glucose atom, okay? So this one on the 6, carbon 6, yeah, and this one, and turn into fructose. Fructose also is another 6 carbon sugar, but it is slightly different in terms of their ring structure. What we call this ring is pyranose, but for glucose is we call what is it? Do you know? Furanose and pyranose. So the one with this make is quite different. Okay. This we'll call what? Phosglucose. This one and this one is fructose. Okay. With this structure, even though you got C6 here and C6 there, this cannot. Some organisms cannot use fructose. Okay, but some can use. But for this structure, every living organism can use glucose because glucose is their C6 compound all together form this ring structure. Okay? So yeah, what happening there is the important one here where they say triose phosphate here. Triose is mean 3 carbon already.
Excuse me, Professor, I would like to know what is the differences of glucose and fructose, because I'm not from Thank you.
The student can answer me.
So,
Yeah.
basically, the difference between glucose and fructose is the source of it. But actually, how to explain this? So, it is the functional group inside the molecules. For the glucose, the functional group is aldehyde, while the fructose is the ketone. So yeah, that's different type of sugar.
What is
For the
aldehyde?
glucose, yeah, aldehyde. Yeah. It will be 2 credits, of course. I think.
Yeah.
That's different
So
type of
you
sugar.
yeah. So it's maybe you have to extra reading, but it is make it different. Even though they have C6, there are two of them. We call hexose sugar. Okay.
Professor.
Yeah.
So for fermentation, actually need organic compound and use
With the smallest one, C6
only
compound.
organic. I need only the glucose working on organic and use glucose.
Yeah.
That is for
But-
fermentation.
Oh well, there are some other, but they have to try to chemical transform into glucose if they can. Or they might have another pathway that try to break down. The fermentation more or less like the breakdown of the sugar, what we call fermentable sugar. Glucose is not only a fermentable sugar. Some organisms like yeast, they can use 5 carbon pentose sugar, but bacteria cannot. Something like that. It depends on what they have in their what we call catalyst. All of these become possible because in the microbial cell, it is a source of all sorts of enzyme to transform that this one needs enzyme that can fill in phosphate group into it. We call phosphorylation. Okay, so you have
Fosforilasi itu dia rebus fosfat itu nanti nempel ke glukosanya.
Nanti malah kita kursus. Actually, it's my roommate. I told him, we take a course from you.
Yeah. So now to answer to your question, David, yeah. See this? From triose, they turn into pyruvic acid. So pyruvic acid also contains 3 carbon atom. Okay, it's a molecule of 3. So what happening there? If they are under low oxygen atmosphere or when oxygen is absent, what happening there? There are a lot of electron donor and electron acceptor between these arrow down here, and you see at the end they will turn pyruvate, for example, into acetaldehyde, and turn into a very good metabolite here we call ethanol, which is very ancient time for food and drink, for beverage. A lot of people in the medical area, they know about ethanol. That's why they go into church and having a wine for, to represent their ceremony in the church. So ethanol fermentation is very, very ancient, associated with humankind, okay? Everybody knows about this, but the basic is that from pyruvic under low oxygen atmosphere, turn into, instead of into an ATP, they turn into a very useful metabolite called ethanol. We call this part called ethanol fermentation. And for next, this one, this side here, lactate. What is very important is lactic acid for our fermented food. Traditional fermented food, when we're talking about acid food that have sour taste. If any fermented food has sour taste, you can guess that the sour taste comes from lactic acid. Okay, so that is what we call lactic acid fermentation or acid food fermentation pathway there. From pyruvic turn into lactic acid here. And then next will be a lot more of organic acid that come from pyruvic acid, like propionic acid, propanol, another alcohol, 3,3, butanol, and butanediol, acetone, ethanol there again, yeah. Okay, 32 various metabolites, useful metabolites for us.
In every product, different.
Now I'll show you next. Oh, sorry, let's go back here. I want to show you about the relationship between fermentation through glycolysis. By different organisms have different products. For example, if glucose turn into this way and into lactic acid here is by Staphylococcus something, here. And if this glucose turn into that with NADH, is the electron acceptor in yeast, will turn into ethanol fermentation of alcoholic beverage there, thing like that. Okay, this is the important, important intermediate. Okay, pyruvic acid, T3 molecule here. Next will be showing more related to the to use various metabolites into a useful fermented food and drink. Okay, here this one. What do you know? Do you know this? Cheese. Okay. Say cheese. Happy? Cheese is like this. It's also the product that obtained from fermentation by dairy lactic microorganism. Okay? They produce lactic acid and turn lactic acid, make the pH of the milk go down until equal to the pH that the milk protein will precipitate form into the curd, become cheese. This is more or less a protein from milk, turn into cheese. Okay, and that maybe I'm too here. All those I formation, it is from gas CO2 generation during fermentation, during making cheese. And I formation here is very important to the unique characteristic of specific cheese. They have to be very fussy about how many CO2 gas produced. Yeah. Because what happening if you thinking about, imagine that there is no hole in the cheese, would that make it more delicious or make it you know, what do you think about your appearance of your product? Do you like to have, when you cut the cheese, you want to see a lot of CO2 hole after they doing your air fermentation and release CO2 and turn into an eye formation inside the cheese. Okay? So, yeah. So CO2 also very important again. Now, next one, this one, cheddar cheese, yogurt, okay, soy sauce here, lactic acid. Yeah. This is the metabolite that turn into this food. And that CO2 and ethanol into wine, into beer, and that's one acetone, isopropanol into organic solvent that is useful for us like nail polisher, remover, or sort of thing that helpful to us. And the other one here is acetic acid become vinegar for us. Okay? Yeah. For acetic acid fermentation, it is an aerobic process. Okay? And I told you before that in terms of, for microbiology point of view, fermentation can be aerobic, can be anaerobic, and can be facultative, something like that. Okay? Anyway, for the rationale of food fermentation is that it's involved directly from the breakdown of the biochemical compound in raw material and ingredients that you use in your recipe. Okay? So we got carbohydrate, protein, and lipid. Carbohydrate more or less turn into acid formation. This is very important for acid food, fermented food that want a sour taste. For protein metabolism can then develop for flavor development for the product. For lipid metabolism, free fatty acid then provide flavor and aromas to your product, especially with cheese. You need to have fatty lipid metabolism after that and turn into a cheese aroma that we'll use a lot in the snack industry. We call diacetyl compounds directly from lipid metabolism here. So now these diacetyl compound that you use for your snack, for example, cheese snack, anything, they're using the lipid metabolism there. Okay?